Welcome to my channel. Sorry, very tired. This is going to be a mini book haul slash TBR slash sort of plans for 2023. This is not all inclusive. I'm gonna have a more detailed video coming later. But this one specifically, I wanted to talk about a specific TBR for Game of Tomes. If you are not familiar, I will leave a link down below. This is created by Emma and Carolyn Mary Reads. I highly encourage you, go give them a follow, watch their content. They're amazing. I adore them. They are doing Game of Tomes for 2023. This is an adaptation of the last 2 years. They had done a Dickens versus Tolstoy monthly book club and debate with each other. So now they're kind of revamping it, expanding it, and it's going to be a bunch of classics. And they're going to have similar themes between 2 months. They're going to be reading one author, one book, similar author, similar theme the next month, and then doing a live show to compare. So I've decided I want to do a read along with them because so many of these books I have either read already or have wanted to read. So what I did is I went through my bookshelves to see what I owned. Then I went to Barnes & Noble to purchase what I did not own. I did not manage to get everything. Barnes & Noble did not have everything. I don't know that I would have wanted to pay right now for every single book. But I'm going to put a link up on screen right now of what is going to be read per month. You will notice the month that has 3, those are options. They are going to have their followers vote on which book is going to be read. So without further ado, let's get into what I'm going to be reading in 2023 to follow along with Game of Tomes. You know what I could do is turn on the TV at least and get some bright light. First book is Ernest Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms. And then the TV goes out. Why wouldn't it? The book for January, A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. This is a copy I had on my shelf. I have not read this. This is actually my brother's copy. I almost bought a new copy, but I already own it. I don't want to buy a duplicate. Also, oddly enough, they didn't have it. They had a million copies of The Sun Also Rises, but they did not have A Farewell to Arms, which seems really weird to me. What's funny about this is that it's already got highlighting. This was my brother's copy. Like I said, in high school, he hated English class. He felt it was completely pointless to read for pleasure, to read fiction and all that. He thought it was even more pointless to have an English class to analyze literature. So I'm reading his highlights in his voice, where he's very indignant at the entire experience and thinks it's a complete waste of time and it's all very snarky. And being his sister, I can tell based on what he highlighted, that was his point in highlighting it. "Oh, darling," she said, "you will be good to me, won't you?" What the hell, I thought. I stroked her hair and patted her shoulder. She was crying. I can just hear him in my head talking about how pointless this is. What's really funny to me besides that is I have no idea what any of his English papers were. I don't know what they were about. I don't remember what books he read. I remember the paper he wrote for this, and I remember the title for A Farewell to Arms. The paper was A Farewell to Verbosity. Need I say more? That's what I'm working with here. But I'm going to be reading that this month. That is the book for January. I still have not been able to find the book for February, which is John Steinbeck's Once There Was a War. Barnes & Noble didn't have it. Even online, I think there's like one version of it. I don't know. I'm going to have to figure it out before February though. And then they will be comparing and contrasting the war novels between Ernest Hemingway and John Steinbeck. Those are 2 authors that have been compared a lot over the years anyway, so it's going to be an interesting follow along. I've not read much from Steinbeck. I've not read much from Hemingway. I've read For Whom the Bell Tolls and Old Man and the Sea. Absolutely loved Old Man and the Sea. Did not care for Whom the Bell Tolls. From Steinbeck, I read the first like 9 pages of The Grapes of Wrath and then refused to go any further because it was all dust. And I'm like, you've written 9 pages about dust, I'm done. But I did read Of Mice and Men and absolutely loved it. So I don't know how this is gonna go, but that's January. These are gonna be kind of out of order because I'm just gonna go through what I have on my bookshelf first and then talk about what I bought. These are not gonna be in the order of having them in the Game of Tomes annual book read. But I do have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I read this last year for the first time. I think I gave this like 3.5 stars. I thought it was fine. There were a couple of good lines. I do have a little bit of annotation in here already, but I am going to be enjoying going through this with Game of Tomes with Emmy and Carolyn Mary Reads, listening to their takes on it. So yeah, that's Wuthering Heights. I also have I really like this edition, and I do like the translators who did this. This is by, this is worth mentioning too. Like I said, I do like the translators. This was Richard Pevier and Larissa Volokonsky. This is Fyodor Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov. Have read this, hated it. I hated it. The thing is, this is like 800 pages almost. I have wanted to do a reread on this for quite a while because I was in 7th or 8th grade when I read it the first time. So we're talking 13, 14 years old. Probably not the best judge of literature at that age. I do have books that I read at that age that I loved and I think I still love today. But I think for books that I read at that age and did not like, I owe them a reread as an adult and having a much deeper understanding, because at that age I was very much reading at a surface level and the story was the story was the story. So I think I'm gonna get a lot more out of it this time, and people love Dostoevsky. And I think I would rather reread The Brothers Karamazov than dive into Crime and Punishment, which I've heard can be kind of a head trip. So I do have a copy of this. I am looking forward to my reread. It has its own bookmarker, which I love. So that is The Brothers Karamazov. This will be pairing with, hopefully, my favorite book of all time. We're getting there. Okay, so that's it for books on my shelves. One of the books is Twelfth Night by Shakespeare. I do actually have it already on my shelf, but my Shakespeare collection is in a huge leather-bound, gold-gilded edge, complete works volume.
I'm very important. I have many leather-bound books, and my apartment smells of rich mahogany.
It's massive, it's cumbersome, it's very pretty and fancy. I don't want to read a single play for the sake of a single play out of it, and I'm certainly not going to annotate it. So I ended up getting another copy of Twelfth Night. This is cool though, because I didn't realize they had this. I don't know why I didn't realize I had this. It should have been pretty obvious by now. It's 2023, people. Of course they have this. No Fear Shakespeare, Twelfth Night. So what they have is a side-by-side of the original Shakespearean dialogue and then a modern translation of it. Can I just say thank you? Thank you. I also have a, I didn't know what it was for a long time. And it was actually, I was watching something on Carolyn Mary Reads channel where I realized what it was because she had a copy of this. I have what is apparently a children's book of Shakespeare plays written in short story form. I will probably be reading that as well to kind of help get an overall idea of the play, and then I will be reading the side-by-side. I love Shakespeare, but it does take a long time to get into it, especially if you're reading it. I think reading plays is a little bit difficult. Reading Shakespeare, it can be difficult. If you're watching the play being performed, I think it's so much easier to pick up what's going on. But since that's not the case here, I am very glad to have a side-by-side of modern versus the original. And this, I do not mind annotating. So, Twelfth Night, William Shakespeare, super excited. I'm mad about this one. This is The Awakening by Kate Chopin. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. Also don't care. I hated this book. I hated it. I don't remember how old I was when I read it. I owe it a reread. I hated this book. The thing I'm mad about is that I owned this book up until June of last year, at which point I unhauled it. And then I decided I wanted to do the Game of Tomes read along, and it was on there. So I bought it. I have now spent money on this knowing I hated it. And they could not find it. And the girl at Barnes & Noble was so incredibly nice. I looked everywhere for this thing, and she's like, I thought we had one last copy. She went all the way into the back, checked everywhere, couldn't find it. And then she's like, watch, the second you leave, I'm gonna find it. And then I'm gonna be like, where'd she go? Sure enough, I was checking out and I was digging around for my Barnes & Noble rewards card, and I hear from across the store, I found it! And I turn around and she's running up to the counter to give it to me, which I thought was incredibly sweet. So thank you very much. Helpful, sweet, kind Barnes & Noble's person. I don't know her name because she did not have a name tag, and we didn't really talk, but she was very sweet and I like her. Anyway, The Awakening by Kate Chopin. I'm not excited about this. I'm really not. But I'll read it. And it's short. And it was under $5. Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I actually thought I had this one, and I realized I was getting it confused with Anne Bronte's Tenements of Wildfell Hall. The Tenant, singular, of Wildfell Hall. I think in my quick video at the beginning, I was actually pulling out a different copy of this, which I didn't. That was not the copy I wanted, but it was the only copy I could find that I liked. There was two. And then as I was roaming around the store looking for other stuff, I found this copy in a different place, and I actually like this. This is the affordable version of classics that Barnes & Noble is putting out. And I absolutely love the texture of these covers. And it's $8. The other book was $22, and the only other copy I could find was another hardcover that was $20. This is $8, and I actually think it's beautiful. I love this. And it's $8. J.D. Salinger, The Catcher in the Rye. I bought the cheapest copy I could find. I actively avoided reading this in high school. It was actually on the mandatory reading list, and I talked to my teacher, and I was like, I don't want to. That's a story for another day, but I've not actually ever read this. I've heard very mixed things. People either absolutely love it and it's their favorite book of all time, or people are absolutely disgusted by it and they think it's one of the worst books ever written. I am a less harsh critic of classic books, especially, and things that don't age well. I don't hold authors and novels to standards today when they were written in a very, very different time period. And that's not to say that I excuse the things in the book. It's just that I don't find value in canceling books, in boycotting books, in thinking that books are not worth the experience or not worth sharing. I don't agree with banning books. I just think everybody has their own personal compass, and if they choose to not read a book themselves, that's perfectly valid. I personally, at one point in my life, chose intentionally to not read this book. I don't know that this is a decent book for high schoolers in particular, based on what I've heard. I actually know very little about this story. I'm fine reading it now. I definitely think, obviously, I'm a different person than I was in high school. Whatever is in here that I did not want to be exposed to in high school, I don't think I'm going to have so much of a problem with. So I am kind of interested to read it and make a decision and a determination for myself. Is this the best or the worst book ever written? Or more likely than anything, it just sort of falls in between for me. So at some point, I'm gonna finally read Catcher in the Rye. Last but certainly not least, under no circumstances is this least, The Count of Monte Cristo. For those of you who have watched a couple of my videos, you might know that I'm obsessed with this book. I read this May of last year for the very first time. I had not read in about 13 years prior to that. This book got me back into reading hardcore. I love this book. Yes, I already own this. I own this exact edition. New book smell. This is $15 for this chunky boy. So for Game of Tomes, they may or may not read this. That is not why I bought this. I bought this for me. I had already planned to go to the bookstore and buy another copy of this because the copy that I have, I did not start annotating it until like here. So I had all of this stuff not annotated. But I feel like it's gonna be awkward to start from a book that's kind of partially annotated. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have a pristine copy, and then I'm going to go back to my original copy and I'm gonna start just annotating fresh from the start. I already have a key in that one, color coded with my notes as to what colors go to what themes, and I'm just gonna annotate the crap out of it. And then I will have my beautiful pristine copy, because I honestly plan to read this book once a year for the rest of my life. And I was thrilled to see that this is on the TBR for the Game of Tomes, because one, it's my favorite book of all time. Two, I actually sent Emmy this copy and I highlighted one of my favorite lines in the book because it reminded me of her, and I wrote in the front where to find the quote. And because I was so grateful, because her channel helped kind of get me interested in reading again, and my mom wanted me to read this book for a totally separate reason, and the two just happened to meet at the same time, and my desire to read just exploded from there. So the Count of Monte Cristo and Emmy are the reasons that I'm reading again, and it's the only reason I have this channel right now, so I'm very grateful. And I wanted to say thank you to her by sending her the book that really inspired me. So she has not read it yet. She has been interested in it, but it's intimidating, and I completely get that. I'm hoping it's gonna be the month that they vote, they have their followers vote on which book to read. Everybody needs to go vote The Count of Monte Cristo. It is the greatest adventure tale ever told. It is gonna be Jude the Obscure, The Count of Monte Cristo. I forget what the third one is, but obviously it'll be on screen with the list. But whether or not they read that for their Game of Tomes, I will be rereading it for me because it's amazing and I love it. This will be the counterpart to, if it's chosen, the counterpart to the brothers Karamazov, which is actually really, really interesting to me. Like there are parallel themes, even though I read this quite a long time ago and I didn't like it, and I read this really recently. This is my favorite book ever. I think they will be a very interesting pairing, and I am actually very interested to read them for that cross comparison, and I think it might affect my annotations on this and what I'm looking at specifically as well, because I'm going to be starting this sometime this year, like maybe now. But yeah, I really hope that these two get paired together. So that is all I picked up today. I have a few more books that I have to probably order online because I just could not find them at the bookstore. But thankfully I have most of the year to collect some of the stuff. The Steinway book that it's not a piano. The Steinbeck book I do have to find before too long, because it's going to be the February read, and then I think in March they're going to be doing their first live show to compare and contrast Hemingway and Steinbeck's war novels. So like I said, I'm going to put both of their channels down below. Please go follow them. I'm going to try to put their Game of Tomes intro videos that they talk about the books that they're going to be doing, talking about the format of it, down below. I have no part in this. I've never spoken to either of these two lovely, lovely ladies, other than I mailed a package to Emmy just to say, hey, I'm a big fan of your channel and here's this book I think you will love. But go follow them, go check out their stuff. They're both so incredibly sweet and awesome, amazing, and fabulous readers, fabulous taste in books, and amazing content. So I'm going to be doing a read along, and as I go through and read the books, I'm going to be doing my own content updates and my own takes on the compare and contrast. And I will probably also be doing a review of what they're comparing and contrasting when they're doing their live shows. I'm fascinated to see how these turn out. I'm really interested in a new format, a new type of video. Like I said in one of my other videos, I'm trying to kind of find my own voice and niche here, and I'm starting to get a lot of ideas. A lot of the stuff I'm starting to get into the planning stages of, but with a full-time job and the craziest month of the year for me because of that job, I don't have a lot of time. So I'm working my way working my way through some of this stuff, and I hope to have some really cool content coming. I need to do a book haul video because I realized that one, I bought a couple more physical books that I do want to share, but I realized that I've been obsessively purchasing discounted audiobooks, and I have garnered a pretty big audiobook collection. And I don't know why it never occurred to me to include those in any of my previous book hauls. So I think I either want to do maybe just an overall book haul or an audiobook haul. I'm really excited. I set my reading goals for this year to read 100 books. I think it's totally doable. I read 76 last year and I only started reading in May. So I'm excited. 2023 is looking like it will be a fantastic reading year. I've got a lot of stuff I can't wait to read. Classics, contemporaries, nonfictions. And I'm just excited about what I can accomplish this year with this channel as well. So I hope that you enjoy the Game of Tomes and follow along with Emmy and Carolyn Mary Reads if you get a chance. I will be posting content as soon as I start making progress on these novels. So leave a comment down below on what books you have read of the Game of Tomes reading list or what books you're looking forward to read. Let me know if you plan to do a read along with these two creators, and let me know what other books you are looking forward to for 2023, especially if they're classics. If you've got recommendations, leave them down below. If you could take a moment, and I really want to see if I can get this video up to 5 likes on this channel. So if you can, go ahead and hit that like button. It would really help me out as I'm starting to grow and starting to kind of get used to and get comfortable with the camera, with talking to you guys, with getting my content out there. So yeah, if you could leave a like, leave a comment. Thank you so much for watching. I cannot wait to discuss these books. So if you guys want to pick these up and go on this journey with Emmy and Carolyn Mary Reads, if you guys want to follow along and do a read along, let me know. I can't wait to start talking about these books. And I will see you in my next one. Bye.